Have you ever woken up, looked around and felt like everything was out of place? Your messy house, your overloaded mind, your lost heart? Have you ever had that feeling that no matter how hard you try, nothing works? No strength to tidy your room, no courage to get out of bed, and much less faith to pray. Maybe you think you're just tired. But what if I told you that this external confusion is a reflection of something much deeper happening inside you? What if the simple act of tidying a drawer, sweeping the floor, or folding a pile of clothes was actually a portal to healing your soul? What if while cleaning your house, you were also cleaning your mind and unlocking your life? Today, I want to show you a new way to start over. It's not magic, but it's powerful. It is something that unites the natural and the spiritual, cleaning with intention, organization with purpose, and prayer with delivery. Throughout this video, you will understand how the environment around you can be the first step towards the rebirth of your faith, your motivation, and your energy. You will discover that when the external aligns with the internal, silent miracles begin to happen. But I warn you, this is not for those who just want one more tip. It's for those who are ready to put an end to the cycle of stagnation. Now tell me here in the comments, will you continue living in the midst of chaos, or will you react today? If you are determined to transform your life from the inside out, right here, I'm ready to start over, and tell us where you're watching from. We want to know how far this message is reaching. Oh, and take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, because this could be the first step in a new phase in your story. Let's go together until the end, because what starts with cleaning can end in a true spiritual revolution. Have you ever noticed how certain environments seem to drain your energy, as if the simple fact of being there, even without doing anything, was tiring? The truth is that disorder doesn't scream, but it weighs down. It infiltrates every corner of your home, and without you realizing it, it also begins to occupy the rooms of your soul. The visible mess around is just a reflection of what is disorganized inside: loose thoughts, repressed emotions, promises made to oneself and never kept. It's a silent cycle. You look around and everything seems out of place. But before you even get up to tidy up, something pulls you down. A feeling of tiredness without a cause, of discouragement without explanation, and then you say you're just no time or too busy, but deep down, you don't even know where to start. And it's not just a full drawer or an accumulated sink. It's the weight of everything you have left for later, stored in visible and invisible places in your life. The problem is that the environment where you live directly influences how you feel, how you think, and even how you pray. When everything is out of place, even talking to God seems difficult. Time with Him becomes another task on the list, instead of being a breath of fresh air for the soul. And the most painful thing, you start to think that this tiredness is normal, that being tired, stressed, without focus is just part of an adult woman's routine. But it's not. This is not God's plan for you. The lack of control around you is slowly robbing you. It is undermining your clarity, your creativity, your peace. And maybe no one else will notice because you've learned to hide it well. He knows how to smile in the midst of chaos, work in the midst of chaos, continue moving forward even without direction. But the truth is that the price you pay for this is too high. And at some point the bill arrives, in the mind, in the body, in the emotions, in faith. Maybe you grew up in disorganized environments. Maybe you never learned how to keep a house in order. Or maybe you gave up on caring because you felt that even though you tidied up, everything kept getting messy again, as if it were useless. But what no one told you is that cleaning and organizing aren't just household chores. They are practical and powerful ways to begin an inner healing process. Every object you keep unnecessarily, every paper you accumulate without reading, every corner of the house you avoid looking at, all of this has energy. And when you decide to look at what you were avoiding, when you face the accumulation and start to move what was stuck, Something also moves inside you. The stagnation of the house feeds the stagnation of the soul. But when you get up and start to bring order to what you see, order also begins to form in what you don't see. And suddenly you notice that you are breathing better, that you can think more clearly. Let the ideas flow. That prayer makes sense again. This is no coincidence. It is a spiritual principle. External chaos opens up gaps for emotional and spiritual oppression. Organization, when done with purpose, closes these gaps and creates a favorable environment for God to act. God can work miracles anywhere, even in the midst of dirt. But there is something special when a woman decides to prepare the environment, not only for living but for receiving, when she chooses that home will be a place of refuge, not oppression. When she understands that by cleaning the floor, she is also cleaning her soul. When you organize your bookshelf, you are reorganizing your ideas. When you open the window, you are letting light in, not just into the room, but into your life. Maybe you're waiting for something to change out there, an answer, a sign, a miracle. But what if the first step is inside? What if the beginning of everything is getting up, picking up the bucket, folding a pile of clothes, making space? What if it is in this simple delivery that God is waiting to act? Don't underestimate the power of the silent decision to put things in order. Many victories are born like this, with a cloth in hand and a willing heart. And while the world doesn't understand, the sky moves. And it is in this movement that true transformation begins. You're not just cleaning a house, He's cleaning an altar, a place that day after day carries your pains, your conversations, your silences, your hidden cries. Home is more than walls. It is a reflection of your interior, a mirror of your intimacy with God. When you decide to clean, something deeper than dust begins to be removed. Each gesture can be a symbol. Wiping the table with a cloth can be an act of restoration of the place where communion takes place. Taking out the trash can represents letting go of what is no longer useful, what was weighing you down, what was getting in the way of the new arrival. Airing the rooms can be an invitation to the breath of the Spirit, bringing life where before there was only tiredness. The Bible is full of references to purification. God has always used the act of cleaning as something symbolic and sacred. The tabernacle was rigorously cleaned. The priests washed before entering the presence of the Most High. Even Jesus, before the Last Supper, washed the disciples' feet as a sign of service and purification. None of this was just hygiene. It was revelation. Now imagine if you saw your routine like this, not as a burden, but as faith in movement. What if, instead of mumbling while washing the dishes, you took the opportunity to pray? Every clean plate, a word of gratitude. Each glass rinsed, a delivery. What if, instead of complaining about repetitive tasks, you realized that they were opportunities to immerse yourself in the silence where God speaks? Cleaning with intention is praying with your hands. It's turning every common task into an offer, and God receives. He is attentive to the heart that serves, that organizes, that cares. He is pleased with the zeal with which you prepare the environment, even if no one sees it, even if no one thanks you. Many times you think you need to stop everything to pray, but there are prayers that are born in movement. When you serve with love, you pray. When you care with purpose, you cry out. When you honor the space you have, even if small, simple, or imperfect, you are saying, Lord, here it is. It's little, but it's yours. It is in this type of surrender that He manifests Himself. It's not the perfect scenario. It is available in the heart. And there is something special when you choose to worship even when tired, even without glamour, even with hands full of soap. Because in this place of simplicity, His presence reveals itself in a powerful way. Cleansing then becomes a prophetic act. You sweep and declare, I am removing what no longer belongs to me. You clean the windows and say, I want to see clearly. You organize the closets and decree, "There is order coming into my life." You fold clothes and say silently, "Every detail in my house is consecrated to the Lord." This is how the spiritual meets the practical. There is no separation between faith and routine. Heaven manifests itself where there is intention, where there is delivery, where there is truth. And the home can be one of the most spiritual places on earth, when a woman understands that everything she does there can be a cult. Some people seek supernatural experiences in grandiose encounters, in distant retreats, in messages of power. But they ignore that there is something supernatural happening when a woman of faith chooses to get out of bed and do what needs to be done, even when she doesn't feel like it. This is faith. This is spiritual warfare. This is transformation. Your home can be a battlefield or a place of rest. It depends on what you sow there. And when you sow zeal, care, prayer, even in small things, the environment changes, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Many of the miracles you expect may be hidden in these small decisions: opening a window, letting the light in, throwing away what weighs you down, cleaning up what was forgotten. And while you do this, talk to God. No need for difficult words. He understands your soul. "Lord, cleanse my heart too." "Dad, just as I organize this drawer, you organize my thoughts." "Holy Spirit, inhabit this place." These simple prayers have the power to change atmospheres, and it's not about perfection. It's not about having a magazine house, but to have a home that reflects peace, a place where you and God meet in the details, where His presence is welcome not only in the prayer room, but in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the living room, in every corner. You can turn your routine into an altar. You can turn your tasks into offers. It can transform your home into a place where heaven touches earth. It all starts with a decision: clean with faith, organize with hope, pray with purpose. And when you combine these three actions, something powerful happens. You reconnect with your essence, with your strength, and with the voice of God that never stopped speaking. It just needed a clean space to be heard clearly. You may not realize it, but every small organization is a message you send to yourself. When you fold that pile of clothes or decide to put order in the forgotten papers in the drawer, you are saying, "I care, I'm taking back control, I still believe." It's not just about making the house beautiful. It's about telling chaos that it no longer commands. It's about showing first to yourself and then to the world that there is life happening there. That even though you are tired, you choose not to give in. Many women experience a constant feeling of disorientation, as if everything was always late, out of line, without structure. It's like walking with an invisible backpack full of accumulated tasks, unfulfilled promises, and jumbled thoughts. But few understand that external organization is one of the most powerful keys to calming the interior. When you start putting things in their place, even if it's just one drawer a day, the brain interprets it as a sign of security, clarity, and direction. Organizing restores the mind's sense of structure, and more, it brings hope. Because where there is order, there is room for the new. Where there is space, there is freedom. And where there is freedom, there is breathing, there is relief. Therefore, every gesture matters. Keep that object that lives out of place. Throw away what has already passed. Create simple systems so you don't get lost in tasks. All of this goes beyond the look. It's a way to regain confidence in yourself. It is the rebirth of the ability to decide. Have you ever noticed that when the environment is clean and organized, the desire to produce, read, create, or even pray increases? This is not just psychological, it's spiritual. The lack of control around screams to your soul that nothing is in place, that there is no time, that there is no point in trying. But when there is order, something changes. You start to see possibilities. Start thinking more lightly. He even starts to dream again. And the most beautiful thing is that this transformation doesn't have to be sudden. It starts with simple steps. One corner at a time, one decision per day. This is not a radical change, but a slow and real restoration. There are days when you might just be able to make your bed, and that's okay. This small gesture is already an act of resistance against discouragement. Other times, you might have the energy to reorganize an entire closet. Excellent. Enjoy. But the most important thing is not speed. It's the meaning. Organizing your home does not mean having control over everything, but it is the beginning of a movement that impacts all areas. When you stand up and start creating order around you, that same strength is reflected in the way you deal with challenges. You start to realize that you can actually handle it, which has more capacity than you imagined. That chaos is not permanent, that there is a way out. And when that hope begins to blossom, something inside you aligns. What once seemed impossible is now just another task to be done calmly. What once seemed like a mountain now turns into steps. What was once confusion now becomes clarity. The organization has the power to show that what is out of control can be resumed, that you can rebuild even after you let everything fall apart. And this applies to your spiritual life too. An organized life with God is not made of perfect rituals, but of intentional space, priority, of constancy. Often, external clutter prevents you from having time with God. But by organizing, you are saying, I make room for Him, not just physical, but mental and emotional. You begin to understand that organizing the environment opens doors to a lighter, more consistent devotional life. And that's when hope truly blooms. Not an empty hope, but one that comes from practice, of choice, from step by step. Because when everything is a mess, you feel small in the face of life. But when you take action, even in small areas, you grow. You become stronger, and this strength drives you to seek more, to care more, to pray more. It's a cycle of restoration. It begins on the outside, but echoes in the spirit. And you know what's most special? God sees every gesture. See the moment when you decide to no longer ignore what's messed up. See the effort to get up, even when everything inside screams to stay still. See the affection when reorganizing the house so that it becomes a place of peace again, and He honors that. Because He knows that by restoring your environment, you are restoring yourself too, and a restored woman is capable of transforming everything around her. Once you start to bring order around you, something surprising happens inside. A different silence settles, a space is created, and it is in this space that prayer finds its place. No longer as an obligation, nor as that moment pushed between one task and another, but as a relief, like a real date. That's when you realize maybe what was stopping you from praying wasn't just rush or tiredness. It was excess. It was the noise of the mind, the confusion of the environment, the accumulation of everything that you didn't have time or courage to process. But now, with the house breathing, you breathe too, and in that breath there comes a cry, a different prayer comes. It's not that rehearsed prayer full of beautiful words. It's raw, it's sincere. It's the kind that comes out in the form of a sigh, a tear, a loose thought that you throw up saying, Dad, listen to me, I'm trying. And He listens, because God does not respond to performance. He answers true. Many women think they need to be spiritually perfect to pray, that they first need to fix everything, clean everything, tidy up everything, even the soul. But the truth is the opposite. Prayer is the beginning of restoration, not the consequence of it. It's when you pray in the midst of chaos, in the midst of pain, in the midst of doubt, that heaven tilts. It's when you pray without strength, but still pray, that the miracle begins to take place. Prayer has the power to move mountains, but sometimes the mountains aren't outside, they're in. There are mountains of insecurity, guilt, fear, accumulated frustration. And it is there in front of these internal mountains that you feel too small, too incapable. But prayer does not depend on your strength. It depends on your faith. And faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is continuing to talk to God, even when you don't feel anything, even when it seems like He is silent, even when everything is still. Faith is the thread that keeps you connected to heaven, even when the earth is shaking. At this point in the journey, you have already cleaned the environment, you have created some order, you have already breathed differently. Now, it's time to talk and to listen, because prayer is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. And God has something to say. He wants to remind you who you are. It wants to remind you that you have not been forgotten, that He saw every tear, that He knows the tiredness that you have not shared with anyone. Maybe you are praying for big changes, a job opening, deliverance, healing, a new era. But before that, God wants to treat your interior. You want to heal the root. You want to break the chains that hold you inside. And this healing begins in prayer, but not just any prayer, an honest prayer, no masks, no empty repetitions. A prayer from those who don't pretend to be well, from someone who doesn't try to impress, but it just presents itself. How are you? Where is God? I'm tired. Lord, I lost myself. Dad, I don't know what to do anymore. These phrases, simple and true, touch the heart of God, because it is at this point of surrender that He begins the reconstruction. Prayer is the place where tears are translated, where anguish finds answers, where fear is dissolved in presence. It's also the place where you reclaim your identity, where you remember that you are not alone, that there is a greater force sustaining you. You may be trying to figure everything out on your own, but there are things that can only be resolved at the altar. There are burdens that can only be left at the foot of the cross. There are wounds that only heal when exposed to the light of God's presence. And the truth is that no external organization will fill the void of the soul that has stopped praying. Cleaning the house helps. Organizing the environment relieves, but only prayer restores. Only she renews her strength. Only she ignites hope again. It is in prayer that you find direction. That's where God shows you the next step. Sometimes He changes everything around you. Other times He changes you. And when you change, everything changes. Your posture, your vision, your faith, your way of dealing with what previously paralyzed you. Because the woman who prays, even in the midst of the mess, is saying to hell, I'm still standing, and God is still with me. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to keep praying, even if it's short, even if it's in the middle of tasks, even if you don't know what to say, because while you pray, God acts. As you pray, chains are broken. As you pray, your soul returns home. And it is in this place, in this silent conversation with the sky, that true transformation takes shape. If this message is making sense to you, if you feel that God is calling you to a new time through cleaning, organization, and prayer, then prove your commitment now. Right here in the comments, I am organizing my life with God. Channel nodes, kingdom codes. Let's leave a like on your comment as a sign that we are accompanying you on this journey, step by step, with faith and purpose. And stay here with me, because what comes next could be just what you need to free yourself from everything that holds you back. Maybe the next minute will be the trigger that God will use to begin the transformation you've been waiting for. Don't leave now. Something powerful is about to happen. Have you ever stopped to think about how many things you do automatically? Washing the dishes, making the bed, sorting the clothes, sweeping the floor. Tasks that seem small, unimportant. But what if each of these actions was a seed? What if great harvests were hidden within them, just waiting for you to water them with intention? The routine only seems monotonous when the soul is distracted. But when you wake up to what you're doing and why you're doing it, Even the simplest gestures transform. Cleaning the bathroom stops being just about hygiene and becomes about purification. Folding clothes stops being an obligation and becomes a care. Organizing a shelf becomes an act of inner alignment. This is the difference between routine and ritual. Intention. Rituals do not need incense, candles, or repeated words. They need awareness, delivery, presence. And when you transform your routine into purposeful rituals, your day takes on a new meaning. You stop just surviving and start living with direction. Imagine starting your day by making your bed. And as you pull back the sheets, you silently pray, "Lord, may today be a day of order and peace." Or prepare breakfast saying, "May this meal nourish not only my body, but also my mood and joy." Or even, when cleaning the floor of the house, declare, "I'm taking away all the energy that doesn't belong to me. Let only what comes from the Lord remain." It's not about religiosity, it's about applied spirituality. It's about understanding that your faith doesn't just live in devotional hours, but in the floor you clean, in the food you prepare, in the way you take care of what you already have. Many women feel disconnected from themselves and from God because they believe that the sacred is in a specific place or at a special time. But the sacred is where you decide to create meaning. And God loves to dwell in the details. He loves when He is invited to be simple. He loves it when you include Him in your routine. It is at this frequency that your life begins to change. Because what once seemed like a burden now becomes a mission. What was once repetitive now becomes therapeutic. What used to make you tired now heals. And make no mistake, this process transforms more than the environment. It transforms you. By repeating actions with purpose, you activate new thoughts. By maintaining consistency, even in small tasks, you strengthen your discipline. And discipline is a bridge. Bridge between the woman you are and the woman you want to become. You don't need a big turnaround to change your life. You just need to start living with intention, with conscience, with faith, because when you understand that everything you do can be spiritual, everything changes. Washing a glass can be a moment of prayer. Organizing a schedule can be a leap of faith. Cleaning a bookshelf can be a way of declaring, "Lord, I'm ready for something new." And when this awareness becomes a habit, you begin to notice the fruits. Your body responds more easily. Your mind gains clarity. Your spirit opens to hear more clearly. You begin to realize that living with purpose is not something distant, reserved only for those who have time or high spiritual status. Living with purpose is within the reach of those who decide to start now, where they are, with what they have. And if there is a secret that wise women carry, it is this: they make the ordinary a path to miracles. They understand that the secret is not in what you do, but in how you do it, with what intention, with what delivery, in what spirit. So don't underestimate your routine. Don't despise ordinary days. They are the fertile soil where God's extraordinary is planted. Because miracles don't just happen at big turning points. It happens when you choose to take care of the house as if you were taking care of the temple, when you serve your family as if you were serving the Lord, when you turn each day into a new opportunity to align with heaven. And that's where, exactly there, the new life begins. Not in a big show, but in the silence of the routine made with love, in the detail of constant fidelity, in the daily delivery that no one sees, but that the whole sky recognizes. It is this fidelity in little that prepares you to live much. It is this commitment to the now that builds the path to the future you dream of. And in the next step of this journey, we will discover what happens when the house, after being cleaned and organized with faith, becomes a space of revelation, rest, and direction. There is a different silence that arrives after the order. It is not the silence of emptiness, absence, or loneliness. It is the silence of peace, of presence, from listening. When everything around is finally in its place, The soul begins to breathe differently, as if that invisible weight had been lifted, as if, after so much noise, external and internal, it was finally possible to hear. This silence has a name: presence. Because when the house is cleaned with faith, when spaces are organized with intention, when every corner is cared for as if it were an altar, something changes. A youthful atmosphere, and you realize that, in a subtle and profound way, God begins to manifest himself there. Not with thunder, not with audible words, but with a sense of security, with a light direction in spirit, with ideas that come out of nowhere. It is in this kind of silence that heaven speaks. It doesn't require haste, it doesn't require effort, it requires space and delivery. Often we are so used to chaos that silence is scary. He looks strange, even uncomfortable. Because without the noise, we are forced to face what we really feel. But that's exactly where God meets us. It doesn't compete with noise. He waits for the right space, and when you are silent, he speaks. A clean house, an intentional routine, sincere prayer, all of this prepares the environment. But it is in the silence that revelation happens. That's where you understand things you didn't see before. It is there that you notice answers that were already in front of you, but were drowned out by the disorder and rush. The silence of a clean house is not absence, it is fullness. This is when everything that needs to be said finds space to be heard. In this place, prayers turn into listening, doubts calm down, the anxiety begins to dissolve, because God begins to remind you in a gentle way who you are, what he promised, why are you here. Maybe you are waiting for answers, for signs, for specific directions for your life. But you have ignored how much the environment influences your ability to hear. Clutter doesn't just affect your view, it affects discernment. She confuses, it overloads, it closes the ears of the soul. But when order is established, the mind clears, and the voice of God, which has always been there, begins to be perceived clearly. You realize he was not silent. You were the one in an environment that was too noisy to hear. And what's more, you begin to understand that what he has for you doesn't come with shouting, come with peace, come lightly. It comes with that knowing that is born within and brings rest. This is why clean, organized, and quiet environments are so spiritually powerful. They are not just pretty or nice. They are portals. Portals to encounter the divine, portals for the restoration of the mind, portals for revealing purposes. You don't need to flee to a mountain or isolate yourself in a monastery to hear the voice of God. Just decide to create an intentional space where you are. Just turn your home into a place where he is welcome. Just prepare the ground and then rest, because in this rest, he speaks. And he doesn't just talk, he heals. Healing doesn't just happen when you pray fervently. It happens when you silence with faith, when you trust that you don't need to fill every space with tasks, speeches, or lists, when you understand that there is power in doing nothing with purpose. Lying on a couch in a clean environment, taking a deep breath, closing your eyes and saying, "Lord, speak to me," is one of the most profound acts of intimacy. And he responds, maybe not with words, but with one certainty, with relief, with a new courage that springs from nowhere. In this type of environment, even crying changes. It's no longer crying in pain. It is the cry of liberation, of gratitude, from someone who finally felt like she was heard. That is the power of silence. This is the power of order. And that's when you start wanting more. You want to keep your house clean, not for appearance, but for connection. You want to wake up earlier, not out of obligation, but out of communion. He wants to protect this space because he knows it is sacred ground. And all of this transforms you. The woman who lived overwhelmed and without direction now finds clarity in the details. It no longer runs after miracles. It becomes an environment where miracles happen. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. How this silent change, imperceptible to the eyes of others, begins to transform everything around it, including your home, your family, and your story. You may think no one is watching, that everything you're doing is too small to make any real impact. But there is a change happening, even if no one commented, even if there were no likes, even if no one noticed. Because true transformation begins in the invisible. And the most impressive thing is that when the environment changes, the atmosphere changes. And when the atmosphere changes, life begins to respond differently. What was once heavy now becomes light. What once created confusion now promotes clarity. What once seemed impossible now becomes possible. That is the power of a restored atmosphere. It doesn't just reflect what happens within you. It begins to influence everything and everyone around you. People start to notice, even without understanding. The tone of your voice changes. His gaze gains more firmness. Your walk reveals more purpose. Your presence conveys peace. And it's not because you started doing something extraordinary. It's because you decided to do the ordinary with faith. Because you understand that transforming the environment around you is a way of saying, I no longer accept living trapped in chaos. I choose the presence of God as a priority in my home. And when this presence becomes a priority, the home becomes holy territory. It's difficult to explain what happens precisely, because at first glance, everything seems the same. The furniture is in the same places, the routine continues, the house is still the same. But there's something in the air, something that you can only perceive when you are inside. Peace, lightness, direction. And this atmosphere influences. It influences your children, even if they don't know how to explain it. It influences your marriage, even if it still faces struggles. It influences your finances, your decisions, your thoughts. Because where there is order, there is room for blessing. God's word is clear. He does not dwell in the midst of confusion, but where there is honor, he remains. Where there is space prepared with intention, he moves. So never underestimate what you are doing. Every day you choose to keep your home peaceful. Every moment you pray silently as you fold laundry. Every time you open the window and declare blessings over that place. You are building an invisible wall of protection, provision, and spiritual direction over your home. And that kind of environment has power. Not the loud, flashy power the world celebrates, but the silent power that sustains, that strengthens, that attracts miracles. Because when heaven finds a resting place, he takes up residence. And when God indwells, everything begins to align. Conversations change, decisions become wiser, the mind finds rest, the heart begins to believe again. Even if the challenges continue, you deal with them in another way. No longer with despair, but with discernment. No longer with arm strength, but with wisdom from above. Because the atmosphere in your home has become your ally, not your enemy. How many times has home become the most stressful place, where instead of rest, there was oppression, where instead of comfort, there was tension. But now, by rescuing the essence of home as a refuge, as a sanctuary, as a point of connection with God, you also rescue your own strength. You understand that you are not just organizing things, it's unlocking cycles, it's breaking patterns, it's paving the way for a new story. And this new story begins to be written in detail, in a coffee prepared with care. In a room that now welcomes sleep and not anxiety. In a clean bathroom where you make healing declarations in front of the mirror. In a kitchen where food is prepared with gratitude. All of this changes the environment. All of this transforms life. And when life starts to change, you look back and realize it was in the small decisions that the big miracles began. It was that morning when you decided to no longer ignore the mess. That afternoon, you prayed while washing the floor. That night, you were silent and just listened. It wasn't a coincidence, it was harvest. Fruit of your constancy. Fruit of your delivery. fruit of your faith expressed in simple but profound acts. And now you start to feel something new being born inside you. A woman who is no longer tied to circumstances, but connected to heaven. A woman who knows what she carries, who understands his role, who became the guardian of the atmosphere of her home, and, consequently, of her own history. And it is with this new understanding that we move towards the final part of this journey. Because after everything that was planted in silence, the time has come to look inside and recognize a new woman is emerging. We have reached the end of this journey, but something new has just begun within you. You may not realize it now, but during each part of this process, as you heard about the cleaning, organizing, prayer, and silence, a quiet transformation took shape. A real, profound, and irreversible change. You understood that the mess around wasn't just visual, it was a reflection of the internal confusion that you could no longer explain. He realized that cleaning an environment can be more than a physical act. It can be a spiritual movement. That organizing the house is also reorganizing the mind, heart, and dreams. That praying, even in the midst of routine, can break invisible chains that have paralyzed you for years. And the silence of the clean house is often the stage where God's voice resonates most clearly. You have walked this far and seen that a change in the atmosphere creates a change in life. And now you are different, more aware, more present, more connected. A new woman is being born, not the one who needs to prove something to others, but the one that decided to align itself with the sky. The one who understood her role as guardian of the atmosphere of her home and her own history. And this woman, the one you are becoming, will transform everything around her. Now pay close attention. This video is not just another inspirational content, it's a watershed moment. It's a call to action. If you've made it this far, you're already one step ahead of most. You are not just anyone. You are part of a select group of women who decide to change, not just dream, who act, not just consume. And if it really touched you, if something inside moved, then prove that you are different. Comment now below, "I choose to change my world from the inside out." And in recognition of your commitment to this transformation, let's leave a like on your comment. We want to see who the women are who are determined to create a new reality, starting with their own home. And of course, if you haven't registered yet, subscribe to the channel now. You need to continue this journey with us, because what we are building here is a movement, an awakening, a silent revolution of women who decided to get out of automatic mode and live with purpose. And before leaving, there is one more important thing. What was the code that turned the key inside you? Comment below. We want to know which part spoke most to your heart. And if this video really reached you, share with as many people as possible. Don't keep it just for yourself. Be generous. Just as you were blessed with this content, bless other lives. You have no idea how many people are trapped inside their own homes, emotionally, spiritually, and need exactly this message to start turning everything around. And look, don't stop here. The two videos that are appearing on your screen now are a direct continuation of the transformation you began today. Each of them has a key that can unlock new areas of your life. Watch both, one after the other. Because the new woman you are becoming deserves to continue growing, healing, and freeing herself. You are not ordinary. You are the answer. You are light inside your home. You are different. And this world needs the woman you're becoming.